we're on. Welcome back to another podcast from Nobody Cares About Dad. This week, still joined by AD.
As ever.
How you doing, mate?
Yeah, I'm good, mate. I'm really good, thank you. How are you?
Yeah, good, mate. Good. Obviously, you can see the title and you can see the picture in the background. So a little bit more of a serious one tonight than the usual lives. Usually we're talking about something stupid going on in the world, but yeah, look, obviously what happened, and actually we touched on this the other day, AD, when with the little video that we did about the Euro final and the sort of backlash beyond that. So
yeah, exactly. It needs talking about. It needs this platform. I mean, it has several thousand platforms, but you know, we need to spread the more spoken about, the better.
100%. Yeah, the more people talk about it, the more people make it less of a taboo.
Exactly, mate. Exactly.
The better, actually. So look, tonight we have two guests. We've got Allan Ross, who actually we were due to come on with Allan anyway, because his story is really interesting. But with obviously what happened on Sunday night, or on the back of Sunday night, with the lads being abused by idiots, let's call them what they are. We thought, let's tie it in, let's do the live, and let's just have a chat. So, and then we got Daz. Did I say Daz? Did I mention Daz?
You forgot to mention Daz, but he'll remind you of
that. So yeah, Allan, how are you doing, mate?
Hi, evening. I'm good. It's a shame that you brought me on the more serious. I thought you was going to bring me on and have a bit of banter, but I got that serious look about me. So everyone always thinks I'm that serious. And here we go. I'm looking forward to talking about the topic tonight.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean,
we'll get you back on. Don't you worry.
Yeah, I'm going to say there's always room for a little one on the live one. And yeah, let's just bring Daryl in as well.
Hello, welcome. They always got room for a little one and one with a big head. That's what we
said. Yeah, Daz is pretty much been around every club in non-league, so be good for him to give his view on what he's seen as he's been around.
Absolutely, mate. Been around. Good to see you, Allan. By the way,
you too, mate. You too. It's quite weird, actually, Daz. I was listening to a podcast, walking my dog the other night, and something about your Armani jeans back in the day. I don't know if you've had this, lads, but I take it that you have.
I've had quite a few people contact me, says, get on my podcast, get on my platform, and answer back what was said. That's what they all want. But mate, listen, bigger man just walks away.
Yeah. So look, Allan, diving straight in. So look, we'll touch on what happened, what's happening in the wider story about what's happening. But look, really interested just to hear your experience and how not how it got started for you, because obviously being people of colour, it's never really started or ended. It's just always been that way. But talk to us about your experience and how you got onto talking about the issue at hand.
It was more a case of not talking about it, and the more that you don't actually talk about it, the less people know. Yeah. And my initial thoughts were, who's the worst people out there, the racists or the people that say they don't know about it?
Yeah. True.
And, one of the most craziest things I've realized over recent years is people don't want to approach you to talk about race because they feel it's a stigma, and they probably don't feel that they have the right to discuss this point with you. Where actually it's a great point and it can lead to so much about life. And unfortunately, with me being in the press over the last year or so, I did actually regret talking about it at one point, because wherever I went, everyone's talking to you about it. So it went from not talking about it to talk about it all the time. And now I'm so pleased. The way that Sunday went, which I'm sure we'll touch on, because this is the best platform. Without me trying, I'm I'm no figure. I'm not a professional footballer. So it's difficult for someone like myself, just a normal, ordinary guy, to try to leverage this conversation. So what's happening now in the world, and as you said earlier, it's a great time now to talk about it, because some of the things I would have probably said a month ago, people would probably say that it's untrue.
Yeah.
So now it's a perfect time to go, actually, it was inevitable. This was going to happen. And I just have my head in my hands, just thinking, I know what's coming now.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it, how you can watch it. So anything, you can almost predict. You have that feeling. Everyone does. And like you said, it's that lack of education, I think. People are like, right, something's coming, something's going to happen. Right, what do? We'll hide under a blanket. We'll pretend it's not happening. That actually makes it worse. Makes it worse because it's not educated. It's not being spoken about properly. And that's the thing.
I think the punishments are good enough. I don't think it's. I just don't think it's. There's nothing in place to deal with it, and much to kind of touching on what Alan's just started his opening comment. Who's worse? I think I've been a little bit naive to it, because not being racist myself is you just think that does it exist? Does it not exist? Is it is it for many years, and then to see it recently blow up the way it has, not just from the George Floyd things or anything else like that, where obviously the movement started itself, but it's something. I mean, as people know, Alan is a good mate of mine, and it was me that we opened this conversation up, just a 15-minute thing, didn't we, mate? When he came to see me that day, and we bounced a few ideas together, and you think, wow, it just kind of a bit opened my eyes, mate, really. So yeah, I was keen to jump on here as well and listen to your story, and anything that you think as well, education wise, it needs to be done.
Yeah, it's hard though, isn't it? Because I mean, you'll hear this yourself, Alan. People will say, and people say it to me, it's not as bad as it used to be. It's definitely not as bad as it used to be. And I'm like, how do you know? Like, you've never experienced it. And do you know what the ironic thing is? It's never black or brown or Asian people telling me it's never as bad as it used to be. It's always
no, that's true.
It's always white people that tell me that it's not as bad as it used to be, and I'm like, I've grown up with it, and you almost become numb to it. Like, you hear things that people will have said to you over the years that you just it is what it is. But it's only when you grow up and you realise maybe it comes with maturity. Something happened to me, right, when we was at. I won't name the club, and I won't name the person, but I had a nickname as a kid at a professional club that I was at, and it wasn't me and Adi went to do a podcast at that club, so I'm sure people can guess where it is now, very recently. And I was driving there thinking, my nickname, right, was B Bobaluba. Right, the coach gave me that nickname, B Bobaluba. Everyone else had Custard, Pasty. I was B Bobaluba, and I was like, "Is that racist? Is that mildly racist that was accepted as my nickname as a 11-year-old?"
Outrageous, yeah.
Yeah, it's obviously outrageous by today's standard, but back then it was obviously normal. But I think the one good thing that's come from all of this is that a lot more people are having the confidence to stand up and say, "Nah, not put." Either I'm not putting up with that anymore, because I've seen loads of people of colour that have said, "No, we're not having this anymore." People that have remained silent for a long, long time on this topic through fear of upsetting people or confrontation or arguments at work. People are now saying, "No, I'm not having that anymore. You can't say that. You can't call me that." And then on the other side, people who haven't experienced it are standing up and saying that this has to change.
I think on the back of the weekend,
I feel maturity was that word that you just mentioned. You get to a stage in your life where you just think, you know what? I'm not going to lose my job over saying what I want to say, because what I want to say is my experience that's happening to me and how I see it. So then you just feel as though you just want to go rah and just get everything out. And I was the same probably as you. You just feel that you've grown up with an acceptance of the colour of your skin will always potentially put you in danger. It will potentially put you as an outsider.
Yeah.
You know that being black isn't a fair race. We know that. But you don't always want to say that to people because it's also that you worry that that won't be an acceptance. And another thing that I was just thinking about earlier was a lot of the time I've never mentioned anything because it's the race card. Remember that old one?
Yeah.
It's a race card. So you just don't bother saying anything because it's actually easier to not open up a can of worms, to then try to prove and defend yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're not heard anyway. And it's almost, if you got no evidence, there's nothing we can do. So it's just, let's just roll with normal life.
Yeah.
So you start learning to be, like Marco said, you become numb to it. You start just going, yeah, whatever. Like
you said, it becomes the norm for you to accept.
And that's how it's been. That is, you come across certain things. I don't know. You know, when you're probably a bad example, but you're driving down the street, you're right away, but you pull over and let someone else pass you, and they don't put your hand up.
Yeah.
Ignorant.
Yeah.
That's because of the colour of my skin. But that's how it feels. If what I'm saying, he didn't put his hand up to me because I'm black.
Yeah.
But these things happen, and you just think, just let it slide. Just let it slide, you know. But for me, on a personal note, I just feel I've got nothing to lose now. And with these racist things that are coming out social media, it's shown the true light of how big the issue is.
Yeah.
I think it's gone full circle.
Can I give you boys a stat that was released yesterday, right? That YouGov did a survey across Europe, and just bringing it into football. 90% of fans in Britain think racism actually does remain in football.
Yeah.
But in England alone, only 54% think it's a serious issue. Only 54%. Just for throwing an idea around to talk about.
I've been, not recently, but I was a season ticket holder at United for a long time, for many years. And the shit that you hear on the terrace by your own fans is horrific. I remember and it wasn't until like the last season, so I must have been, what am I now, 36? So I was probably 32. So I'm at a position in my life where I'm not going to put up with idiots. I'm not going to put up with nonsense. But whereas as a younger man, I might have just ignored. Well, in fact, I did. I just ignored it. I remember being stood when United were playing Tottenham at home, and there's some guy next to me yelling racist abuse at Adebayor, right? And I just turned around to him and went, "Are you serious, mate?" And he was like, "Oh, it's not you, it's him." I was like, "No, mate, no." That's not. And then I started having a scrap with him. But you're like, this is your own fans.
Yeah. Well, that's what's proven this weekend, isn't it? The weekend's just gone. It's there's no loyalty. We say about like loyal fans and everything like that. No, it's uneducated. It's people that have there's no repercussion, or the repercussion isn't as severe as it should be.
Yeah.
I know they're working on that. There's loads of petitions and that, but then you've got to think, is that going to resolve it?
I think the punishments need to be addressed, but taking it all the way back, this social media thing is it's a tool, and it's a bad tool in the hands of certain idiots. I mean, that's one thing. That's nothing to do with education that could be clamped down on overnight. You know, like people making these accounts straight away. You can't change what the content of what they're saying in the head, which is ridiculously vile. Honestly, I'm ridiculous. It's awful. But what they can do is stop putting it out there. That they are giving them, like they said, a platform to do this. It's intensifying it. So that's got to be the first thing, surely, where, you know, like setting up an account needs a driving license. So it actually tags you. And in that terms and conditions of that account, that if you, and it's just going off, there's a bigger picture than racism. And I know that's what this is about tonight, but whether it be homophobia or anything, whatever it may be, but if that person decides to go and spurt their mouth, under alcohol a lot of the time, I think that's a fair thing to say. I think people think they're brave and think they're funny and clever. But that's got to be a first point for me. They've got to address that.
Yeah, we've talked about this a lot, Ailey, Daz, on the podcast, where we say that I don't understand how in today's society, day and age, that you can be non-accountable for these social media accounts. And like you said, it's a bigger issue than racism, but we're talking about racism right now. But how I can set up an account tomorrow with your name, your pictures, and just abuse Alan.
That's what I'm saying.
Just like that, without any consequences.
But it's just giving a voice, not even a voice. It's like it's giving a little man, a little idiot, a massive voice. Do you know what I mean? It's out there for millions and thousands.
Do you know what the worst thing these social media companies did with the comments? Allow you to like them, because now people just make comments to get likes. And that's all they're doing. They're chasing likes, and they'll say the most stupid, most audacious things.
Yeah, to draw attention.
Oh, look at this! This one got 4,000 likes. Look at that comment.
That's what we said the other night, didn't we? We said about this. You can post something purely based on getting likes, and then all of a sudden you are, you're out there. You're top of everyone's list.
Denzel Washington did a massive article on that. There's a video clip on YouTube about that. Where just digressing slightly, but how the only thing that ever used to matter to anybody was being liked by the person in front of you, and now it's like you said, it's attention seeking. It's want to be liked and attention, and like I said, for the wrong reasons.
Alan, what happened to you? Talk to us about your story with was it Pinchbeck?
Yeah. So I was at the football club.
All right, mate.
I'll catch you in a bit.
Cheers, Eddie.
I was at Pinchbeck for, I can't remember, 5 years, something like that. We had a fantastic time. Went from step 7 football to step 5. Probably all a bit too soon, but that's by the by. I left the football club, went to watch them play, and was racially abused by one of the fans that always used to come to the games before. Had a bit, some issues with him before. He's well known for being racist in the area, and I was stood next to my old chairman, and the guys come in to the stadium, and I'm stood literally next to the chairman, shoulder to shoulder, and he said, "I see you've let a WOG fan into the stadium."
That's awful.
And I just said to the chairman. And he's walked off, and I've just gone, did he really just? And he's just gone, yeah.
And what did the chairman do?
What was the repercussion?
The chairman doesn't know how to deal with confrontation. It's just not in his DNA to be able to deal on the spot with something, or even if it's not on the spot. He's just that guy that let somebody else do it, please. So he did nothing. I said to him, "Are you going to eject him out of the stadium?" He's then thinking there's just going to be a commotion. There's the subs are warming up right in front of us, so they can see what's happening.
Yeah.
So he was going to do nothing. So I turned around, went over to the guy. So, what's the problem? Just because of the colour of my skin? What have I ever done to you? And I was boiling. So I went from probably 30 seconds of being gobsmacked to just wanting to knock his head off.
Yeah.
The most gutting thing about it wasn't actually the chairman. It was the fact that a family friend and the father of one of the players was actually there, saw it all, heard it all, and didn't do anything. Nobody in the vicinity did anything, and it was just like the ground just sort of swallowed me up. Moving on probably on different subjects, which we could always come back to. in disbelief, I've left the stadium. Went to Spalding police station. Didn't realise that it was closed. So I've called, is it 101 or whatever the number is? Give the police a call. Because I'm thinking now, my wife is going to kill me if I go home. She's expecting me to be coming back later. I've come back in an upset state because I've been racially abused and I've done nothing about it. So I ring the police and the police say, we've got a patrol car in the vicinity. Go back to the stadium, wait outside the stadium if you don't feel that you're in any danger, and the police car will be there by the time you get there.
Yeah.
So it's probably 2 or 3 minutes drive. So I drove back and police cars come in. It's like, great timing, great. We'll get this sorted. I'll just report him. Police car drove past me. So I'm thinking, oh, okay. So I'm waiting, 10 minutes gone by. The police car comes back. So I now wave at the police thinking they probably don't know who I am. So I'm trying to get their attention. Just drove past me. So we waited for about 45 minutes, nothing. So I start driving home. Then eventually they ring me. The police sort of met me in a lay-by and pretty much said there's nothing they can do. It's a civil matter, nothing they can do.
Mm.
So I'm in the police car going, right. But if I'd have hit him.
Yeah. That's exactly what I was about to bring up.
You'd be arresting me now.
Yeah.
I've tried to do the right thing in reporting it, but you're telling me there's physically nothing you can do. And that's when, and I don't know, you've probably checked, or people watching this will probably check. I'm not that social media savvy. I'm not on it regular. But that's when I just put a little video out there because I was gobsmacked. Didn't realise it was going to go viral. You don't realise at the time. And the FA called me, messaged me that night. Then the newspapers was calling me, and then obviously the video's been retweeted and it went out to thousands and thousands of people. It wasn't until, so this was a Saturday, it wasn't until I think it was the Tuesday, I'd heard nothing back from the police, nothing. And BBC Links called me and interviewed me. And they wanted me to go to their studio in Lincoln. But, and I think actually, Daz, this is probably the day that we met, I think. And they interviewed me. And within an hour of that interview being broadcasted, I had one of the police chiefs call me to say, do you want to make an official complaint? And I said, I don't understand. What do you mean an official complaint? You said you can't do anything. No, that's not quite right. So it took about another 4 or 5 days until they got back in touch and wanted an interview. And this is the thing. This is why Black people don't bother reporting stuff. Because I can tell you from my own experience, it's not an opinion, it's an experience. Yeah. The police do not care.
Yeah.
They don't. And if that's an accusation, I'd love this podcast to be sent back to the police for them to go on their file and see how they acted. Not only that, since then, I didn't hear anything. And then I heard that they went and that was it. They said they had a word with him, a strong word. That's seriously, they've rung me and said they've had a strong word. Then they've asked me to now go into the Boston police station, make an official statement. And I'm like, well, you took one when I reported it.
Yeah.
He's a new officer. We need more detail. So this is all going off, and I'm getting more frustrated and just thinking, Alan, why? Why didn't you just go home that night and not say anything to anybody like you normally would? And all the way to the point where I believe he got charged, and there's a court case November the 12th.
Didn't know that.
Yeah. Daz, neither did I.
Oh wow! Because that's. I mean, we've obviously had a very brief conversation about this. a couple of weeks ago, but I mean, you didn't tell me then, so that's why I was just a bit shocked by you telling me that, thinking, well, you never told me that.
Because
You didn't even know.
I didn't know
Crazy.
until a newspaper reporter rang me to say, could you comment on the issue going to court? And I said, no, sorry, with him being charged. I don't know what you mean. And I said, well, how do you know? Did the police ring you? And they said, the report said, no, if you go onto the Lincolnshire Police website, it sort of updates itself daily or something like that.
Well, because that's how victims should find out about their punishment.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
Honestly, Marco, but they interrogated me. When I went in, the interview must have lasted 2 hours. And to the point where you're just like, I'll never do this ever again. You try to be supportive for your race. And at that point, you feel that you're not Martin Luther King. You're just representing Black people and the youth of today. And you want to stand up and go, this is the right thing, reporting it. The FA, by bearing in mind, are exactly the same. FA wasn't interested, but also was they not interested? They didn't know how to deal with it.
I think that's the big thing, isn't it? Is that they don't know how to deal with it. That's evident in everything. I mean, going back to the couple of years ago, the John Terry and Ferdinand issue. I can't remember his name. Rio's brother. I can't remember. Anton Ferdinand.
It's interesting that they jumped on it when it was starting to go viral. Then
that's it. That's it. When that snowball is grown and it's rolling, and they're thinking, "Hang on a minute, let's act now, otherwise we're going to look bad." Which it's a shame it took that, mate. That's really sad.
Yeah, but everyone's supportive at that point. But it's then what happens beyond that. It's what is so. Yeah, okay. Someone might get a ban, someone might get a fine, but what happens? Where's the education beyond that? There isn't any. It's just like, wrap on the nook, like you say, we'll have a serious conversation with him.
I've got a question for you, Alan, right? So in terms of like witness reports of that, I mean, people heard that. Did they submit a report? Because with things like that, it's always he says, she says, is there any evidence, any proof? There is, isn't there? Not just what anybody says. If I could say something completely off topic today, as we're back in the day when we were estate agents, and you could report it, and then I could say you never said it. You know where I'm going with it. So I just want to know. So the chairman's heard it. You've asked him. Did he just say what I think he said? And he's gone, yeah, he did. Kind of. Did he submit a report? Did he witness that?
I genuinely, I don't know. All I can answer you is the police, and I was thinking.
I'm not pointing the finger at him, by the way. It's not me on the witness. I just want to know.
I'm here to answer every question. I've got nothing to hide. And I just wanted to say, I was going to say to you guys before we came on, shall I mention everything? Because they're taking him to court at the end of the year. But I've got no faith, so I'll answer every question faithfully. So please don't feel that you shouldn't ask me a question. But going back to your question, Daz, the police never said, Mr. Ross, at this stage, it's an allegation that you've made about a member of the public. Mm-hmm. Like the newspapers frustrated me. All it was alleged, even though the chairman said that he's heard it and the guy's been banned, but it's still classed as alleged.
Yeah.
Fair enough. You get it. The police never said, Mr. Ross, could you tell me who was in the vicinity at the time? Just so we can gather evidence. So this is why I don't mind just telling you how it was.
Because that says to me, if that question's not been asked to you, and if you're not aware of any witness thing, it's like you said, it's that night that it happened, it was just literally like, this will blow over. It'll go. This will go away. To wake up tomorrow, he'll forget about it, because that's what, a black man's supposed to do. As you said, that's what you said. You've become numb to it all over these years. And that's basically, that's how I'm perceiving your story. Because that's the first question is if I was a police officer attending that scene, I'm walking to you and I'm saying, right, just explain to me, without getting irate or anything like that. Obviously, you calm the person down and say, what has happened this evening? And then the next question is, was anybody present? That's surely the first question, Alan. And that's why I'm just bewildered again. It's not pointing fingers. It's not me saying that the chairman should have stepped forward and said, I've heard this, or it's not saying that I'm not trying to even say, well, there is a police failure there, but let them carry on doing their investigation, see where it goes. But I think now that says to me that night, that was completely just, well, we'll attend, we'll make sure there's no trouble tonight, and then tomorrow is a new day.
Yeah, that was going to be my question, actually, Alan. Do you think when the police were dealing with it, were they actually concerned and bothered by what you were saying, or did it more feel like they were filling out paperwork and just doing a job?
It felt like they wasn't doing the job.
Right. As we would perceive them to do their job.
No. They've not gone through the right protocol.
No, you could tell.
Yeah.
You could tell. You feel as you get experienced in life and you're speaking to someone in their presence, you know if they're listening to you or not. We're in a virtual world now, aren't we? Yeah. You know, a year ago, 18 months ago, whenever it was, we'd speak face to face and you would get someone's energy. There was nothing there to make me believe that there was even bothered in the slightest. And then you also think there's stuff going on. There's domestic violence, there's robberies, there's shootings, there's so many different major things going off in the world. And I'm just going there with a little bit of racism that I received. You know, that's how it felt. It just felt like, are you really coming to me with this? You know, I don't know if you've got siblings, but you go to your mum and go, is it me?
Yeah, tittle tattle. I get where
you're going. It happens all day, every day. Go away, sort it out yourselves. You'll be playing with each other in the next half an hour. It just felt like he was being fobbed off. And the communication after, abysmal. I can't come onto your podcast and say, go to the police and report your racist incident. I can't. I'm an honest guy. I can't give anybody that confidence. Well, certainly with Lincolnshire Police anyway.
Just reading another interesting fact there, right? Just to bring this one up. The kick it out, right? I've said here that from the middle of like 2019 alone, they're equating for it. They reckon that racist abuse is raised by 53% alone. Just for another stat out there, that there's obviously there's a massive issue here because there's more platforms, there's more campaigns, there's more. What I thought, again, from the outside looking in, there's been more awareness, but still, it's failing, isn't it? Because why is that rising? Why is that rising? Is
it rising though, or are more people talking about it?
Well, it's said that's the stats. Kick It Out said that the racist abuse of the game has increased by 53% since 2019. Since they've had a bit, what I think is a bigger focus. I mean, you've got these banners here. There's the no room for racism. There's Kick It Out. There's multiple different things. So why there's more awareness now? Why? What? Because they're saying this is cases.
Well, the people, it's mixed messaging from the very top, Daryl. I mean, you only have to look as far as what Boris Johnson and Priti Patel. If you look at the reaction from,
I agree. I'm opening up. I'm not saying that them things are bad, and that's what's leading to an increase. I'm just shocked at them stats. It has to be like it's at the very, very top of society, isn't it? It really is.
Yeah,
it's failing, and
I think there's a bit of both there, Daz, but I don't think that necessarily it's a massive spike in people coming forward because, in my opinion, we've seen players like Raheem Sterling get it, verbal abuse.
Oh, no, it's not me saying it's not me. They're saying the victims, mate. It's me saying the more awareness that they bring, the more campaigns they've got to back everything to do with racism, the more idiots seem to surface. That's the way I'm going with this. There's more idiots surfacing and giving it worse than ever.
But there's no
consequence.
There isn't no consequence. And if I get banned if I'm going to watch my local club, I'm not banned if I'm going to watch them on away games, am I?
No, and I completely concur with that because I travelled with England home and away for 3.5 years, seen some unbelievable stuff, some awful stuff in all words, and again, the people that were supposedly, I remember being on a train from the Czech Republic to Poland, and they're getting off 3 stops before because they're banned from traveling, and they're still there. So that doesn't work. The banning aspect doesn't work.
No, and how do you police that?
No.
If it's face recognition as you go through the turnstile.
Do you want me to tell you how they policed it? Do you want me to tell you exactly how they policed it? I remember being out there, and there was a handful of Nottinghamshire police identified by the little point on the hat. And they are literally there looking for pockets of what we were, Forest fans, going to watch England, looking for the usual probable suspects that are banned from travelling, banned from football. But there was loads without going into too much. But, there's people like, we're getting off here, like, oh, you're 3 stops away from where we need to be. Oh, yeah, but we can't because they'll be there and we're banned. And it's like, well, you're already here. And then you bump into them in the ground and you think, wow, okay. And they're not banned, and it's not racism they're banned for. They're banned for all sorts of things, but even still.
Yeah, they are. And kick it out, by the way, Troy Townsend. My phone rings, I think it was the Monday morning, 9 o'clock. And it was Troy Townsend. I was like, whoa. I was a bit starstruck because someone must have copied him in on a tweet or something. And he DM'd me and said, send me your number. And then straight away I got this call, and I must have spoke to him 3 or 4 times. That guy's an absolute legend. If anybody was to report racism and they managed to speak to Troy, great guy. But there's no power. Kick it out, have no power.
No, okay.
It's a campaign. It's out there. But what's frustrating me, by being a football coach and a football fan, we talk about the pro game, but we don't talk about the root of the problem, in my opinion, is in the grassroots. Now, we've got players supported by the PFA, UEFA, FIFA, the Premier League. At grassroots, that's where the problem is. And we talk about education. And I felt that when I went back to my first game as manager from being racially abused and players were starting to take the knee, I was thinking, are we going to get an email from the Lincolnshire FA saying that we're going to be taking the knee at our football game?
Yeah.
Now, some people may laugh at that, but I was thinking, oh, I thought it was all one game.
Yeah.
One message, yeah, definitely.
If you're in grassroots, now don't get me wrong, I haven't been in youth coaching for 2 or 3 seasons now, but is it not all one game, all inclusive?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, exactly that.
That's the message that you get. So why is it at the top end of the game, but it's not in the grassroots? Because you're not going to educate these certain vile, racist football fans that are in the terraces, i.e. on Sunday night. But you've got the opportunity of educating our youth. You can talk about it in school assembly. What about taking the knee as a 7-year-old, 8-year-old? And when they say, coach, why are we doing this? We never used to before. We just used to show our ID card before we kicked off. Now I show the ID card and I'm sat on one knee. And it's for social injustice. It's to prove to
it's not politics,
the game, sport in general.
So would you like to see that? Is that something you'd like to see?
That is the first step of education, because you then speak to your parents, and when you want to start about what's erupting is the fact that certain people don't like things. The only people that don't like footballers taking the knee is racist people. For 10 seconds, we don't care. In essence, I'm just saying, from somebody that doesn't care about racism, just like people are ignorant when they talk about mental health. If you've got the I'm trying to think what the armband was.
Racism.
No, the armband for homophobia. Was it the goalkeeper?
The German keeper, wasn't it?
Yeah. Like, for me, great. You're harming nobody, but you're making people aware. It's not political at all. It's nothing to do with politics. It's all to do with what's happening in the world. But you can't expect a player to donate 20 grand of his wages into the community, but then you can't allow him to stand on one knee and say, we just don't want to be racially abused anymore. But not only us as footballers, but in society, we're just making you aware that it's everywhere. And if your stats are right, Daryl, it's growing. The stats are growing, not only in society, but in our sport alone, it's growing.
Yeah.
And now our players,
so I think that was
here just to remind myself to say this. Colin Kaepernick got slaughtered, lost his career over kneeling on one knee. Now he's a hero. He had big balls, that guy did. But what the England players haven't done is taken the knee during the national anthem, have they? They've done it for 10 seconds prior to the kickoff. Not in during the national anthem, but they're still wrong. So being a black footballer, they're always going to be in a position where they're never ever going to be able to win. You can raise £20 million for school meals and not win. Whether you've missed a penalty or not, it's irrelevant. You're not going to be able to win. Raheem Sterling, he was bringing football home on his own. Let's be honest, I don't know one person during the Euros, in the first 2 games definitely, I didn't speak to one person that didn't say, get Harry Kane off the pitch.
Yeah.
If that was Raheem Sterling, not only get him off the pitch, but send him home. But Raheem Sterling scores, is a hero. But then all I heard was, "Want a great finish though, was it?" Balls at the back of the net. But if it was Kane that scores it, it's cool.
Yeah, I've had this myself, Alan, in as much as, so I have a difficult relationship with the England national team in following them. Like our family are Italian heritage, and so I've always followed the Italian national team. I have done for a long time. But the same people that will have a go at me for not following the English national team will tell me that I'm not English, I'm not British, I don't belong here. Do you know what I mean? So I have a difficult relationship trying to balance that with, and I sort of get how people will say like Raheem, how Raheem Sterling, we're using him because we talk about him, has any pride pulling on that England shirt. I have no idea.
I agree with you.
I
agree. And would you?
Would you want? Yeah, but he might as well have had the summer off, hadn't he? Instead of putting himself through all that. That's really how low it's going to get, isn't it? That's how bad it's going to turn people completely away.
I hope that black players boycott playing for England until the FA themselves, not the Prime Minister, until the FA, because apparently it's the biggest one. Is the FA not like the biggest organisation that we know? And if you're into football, the FA is huge.
Yeah.
But what have the FA done? A statement? What's a statement?
Well,
there's nothing, like you said, no substance there at all, is there? They like you said, like you going back to about the police, they came and had the chat because they felt as if they had to do something on that night. It's the same thing. Release a statement with words. There's nothing else behind it. We are so against. It's all great, well written, fantastic.
Hyperbole.
Yeah, it's fantastic. You read it and you think, yeah. And what we're going to do about it?
Nothing. Is that a granny falling over?
Yeah, but it is like that, isn't it? But I mean, the questions that we won't have the answers to is what to what level of the punishment does it go? But something serious has got to go. I mean, I know these guys, and just bringing up the estate agency thing, because I believe one of them works at Savills, or he's had his account hacked.
He did.
So it's a bit of an interest when I saw that. I thought, for fuck's sake. And it was, again, going off on a bit of a tangent, but it was an idiot that got that Chris Whitty in a headlock. He was also an estate agent. So you're thinking, oh, you're really not giving us all a bit, putting us in great light here. But I just think, what are we going to do? what is that punishment going to be that's going to make the world sit up and think, actually, fuck, we know it's wrong, and if we step out of line.
Alan, going back to what happened to you, would you have, obviously knowing what you know now, would you have dealt with that differently now?
Would you have punched him? That's what he wants to know. No, I'm joking.
Yeah. I got abused for not from my friends that I grew up with.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that I'm past thinking that just solves an issue.
Does that give them what they want? Does that give that, as in, have they won then, making you lose your head, snapping in a degree? Do you feel as if he's won anyway?
The thing is, you don't come out smelling the roses for not and trying to go down the right route, is what I'm saying now. Yeah. So if I had the option to do it again, my satisfaction, bearing in mind, this guy's, I believe, he looks about 90, but he's probably, I think, late 50s, early 60s, okay? They're not going to send him to prison, are they?
No, I mean...
He's going to get a slap on his wrist, right? So, if the guy goes away with a bloody nose and his nose is over there for the rest of his life, and people say, what happened to your nose? I'd rather him live with that in one aspect, because he's got to explain. Or he's got to lie and say, I had a tractor accident or I was in a car crash or something, and that's why my nose is over there forever. But does
that fuel more hate, though? Because, like, I'll give you an example of this. I know somebody whose dad is racist, openly racist. And the question as to why he is because he got beat up by black youths as a kid. And that's why he's racist. Now, what a ridiculous statement.
Because you can't put a stigma against all black people for that.
Of course, but some people will. So that's what I'm saying. So if Alan was to do that, does he then fuel him? But then not only him, his friends, his circle around him, or this is what happens. And it's black people being black people, right? Violent thugs.
Yeah, and talking about violence, I went to the Black Lives Matter movement, to the protests. And the reason it was by fluke, so I was going to see my friend in London, central London. He's a solicitor. He's white, as posh as they come. And we went for a bike ride. And I was like, wow, where are we? He was like, oh, we're close to Hyde Park. Remember, it's the BLM march this weekend. We went, and it was the most beautiful thing that I've ever seen. So many different races. It was unreal.
Yeah. Everyone
stuck together. By the way, there was no violence when I was there whatsoever. Whatever was in the press was such a deflection away from what happened that day.
Yeah, because they don't want it. They don't. It protests in general. They don't want, but that's just they're just
successful. When I look around and went, but I'm a black lad, I'm being stereotyped. I looked around and was like, it was another good check. One of those moments in your life when you come away and go, not everyone perceives you by the colour of your skin.
Yeah.
Or by the way that you talk, or by your haircut. And I came away from there so more mature. But when this was happening and people was messaging me, it was friends, family. My mum was absolutely distraught. My mum was like, if I didn't bring you into this world by being black,
you would be subjected to that.
And then I've got grandparents and my children. I've got neighbours. I've got friends. That are in high places, if you like. And I felt for them because they was hurting.
Yeah, well, it's not nice, is it? Like you said, to see. Well, I think it's like you said. Once it blows up into, like I said, it's the fact that it's got to the magnitude that it did, the awareness of it from how it went. Otherwise, like I said, how many times has that happened to you before? Genuinely, it's never. You know what I mean? And I'm not, like I said, just for the record, I ain't jumping on the bandwagon in any way here. You are both my friends. I've been, Marco's fucking like a brother to me, and we've been mates for God knows how long. Do you know what I mean? It's just, that was why I was keen to sit on it, because we'd had a really good conversation about it. And I asked Alan a question, Marco, and my question was, and Alan will give you the answer here and now, but I said to him, I said, this taking the knee situation, I said, is it right to continue? I said, because is that causing more divide? If you remember this question, I said, is that causing more divide now by these tits that are booing it? Does it need to stop? And then, like I said, then you hear Alan's side of it. Like I said, he went in the non-political for 10 seconds. All it is saying it's inclusive. We're all the same. You can't separate us like this. Whatever the message you wanted to say, but that's what made me want to get Alan on here, because that message, that question I asked him was that is it right that they are taking the knee? If it's causing more trouble, does that? Yeah, I mean, Alan will answer that. What is that? What he told me.
It's only irritating racist people. Nobody else has got an issue with seeing.
And I didn't have an opinion on this, by the way, did I? I did actually say to you. I said,
no, you didn't.
I just said, what's the right thing? What would you like to see? What would you want? That's what I asked.
I want to see taking the knee in every sport, because every sport is open to any race, male or female, any race.
So my another question then: do you think that people perceive that to be just literally attached to, as in Black Lives Matter, which is such a big movement, which came off the back of something else? Do you think that's where the issue is? Do you think that
I can answer that. Just jumping in, is that's the convenient excuse.
No, this is why I'm asking. That's what I said. Yeah, I'm asking the question.
Yeah. But because I think they've been very clear that it's not linked to Black Lives Matter. Because look, we can all look at the political dogma of Black Lives Matter, and we can defund the police. Like, nobody wants that. Like, who wants that? So at the core of what they stand for, I don't agree with. But what they're talking about is inclusion, equal rights. Being treated equally.
Yeah, education on Black history, and I can
go with that. And I think the England team, the Premier League teams have all made a statement to say this is what we're standing, this is what we're kneeling for.
Yeah, but and that's what I'm asking: is do you still think there is a high? Do you think that is an excuse of people? Is that what they're hiding behind, why they don't want it, or is there genuine belief they're still thinking that represents the Black Lives Matter, and they, like you said, they get to the core of what that stood for, or some of the politics behind that movement, or whatever words you want to use, because they're booing for a reason. I 10 seconds, and it's just to bring awareness.
I just wish that if I was in the stadium as a white person, I'd have got on my knee in the terrace.
Yeah, but I think that's been good that the white players have done it as well.
To prove a point. Yes, and they wasn't forced. And by the way, just because this is essentially a football topic this evening, Gareth Southgate needs a serious medal for what he did. And the naivety around what I'll say now is beyond me. As a football coach, I looked at Gareth Southgate representing the FA. Prim and proper, let's be honest, is a prim and proper.
Straight lace, isn't he?
When he gave it was like your head teacher seeing him at his daughter's wedding when he went to the crowd. But it took him how many games? I can't remember if it's after the Germany game or Denmark, when he just sort of had a bit of a release. And he's clever. He's clever. By him backing the knee, got England to the final. Because all the players, all the black players that was included in the squad, needed his support. He not only as a leader did he show that support, that's how the team was cohesive. And that's why everyone was inclusive.
Because it was evident, wasn't it, that team morale and that togetherness was there. Yeah.
So how do you think Raheem Sterling, just going back to him, how did he come off the back end of the season of not being so good to being our best performer, our best player? It's because his managers said, I'm backing you, not because of your ability, but for the person that you are, Raheem. Go out there, play for your country, give it everything. That's how Raheem was carrying us. It's only my opinion for the first few games for sure. He ran his heart out for England. Every player did, to be honest. Every player did. What else Gareth Southgate did was made sure that those lads was not going to be bored all the way through camp, which must be, we've got kids. I can't,
impossible task, yeah.
Now. How do you keep them interactive and not bored? That's how we got there. But also, no one recognised what else he did. He got Chris Powell as a coach. So wherever they looked, it just wasn't full of white people around him. You got Chris Powell in as the older black man. Is Chris Powell probably touching 50, I think, I'm guessing, or maybe late 40s? And they got experience. So the black players also had someone, if they needed to go to talk to him, because they
could
knew
see that diversity, couldn't they?
Yeah, 51.
But they also knew that something would happen during the tournament. Some racism at some point, or some bad comments would kick in. Gareth Southgate was an absolute genius, in my opinion. It's almost like, when you sign a footballer and you think, if I sign his mate, he's going to be more dedicated to the team, and he's also going to travel.
Marco was the mate weight, though. He was the one that they didn't want. They signed him just to get me. Obviously, it was that way around. Let me just tell you, Alan, just to break this with a bit of a laugh. We ended up at Burton Park Wanderers once, the worst team ever to play in the UCL. Down in Kettering, me and him. That's how much of a package. Yeah,
playing for them.
We've played. Trust me, we only had about 4 or 5 games, but no, never again. But
I bet the money was good, wasn't it? Had to have been.
Don't know about that. The nights out were.
Yeah, the nights out were good.
Dear. So I think Gareth did many, many things right, and that's how we got so far.
So I'm going to bring up another topic in a minute, Alan, because you've just touched on it. So as you know, and I'd rather not mention the club myself, but. Okay. So I'm just moving to under 11s coach, a really big youth organisation in the area, and
Forest.
Look at this! Listen to him. He always has to get the Forest jibes in there. So there was an incident. I think I've already spoke to you about this actually, where there was an under 15s game at the club, and you've heard of this. You have actually heard of this because you said you'd heard. There was a game where. A black footballer is absolutely run riot. He scored 4 goals. He's ripped the game to pieces. And after the game, the club that I'm attached to, albeit I said a lower age group, they've created a group on Snapchat. Okay, again, coming back to the social media thing. The whole team get added, and they add just that one person from the other team. And they've absolutely gone to town on him. Right now, that story of this youth club that I'm attached to went pretty big, and obviously the FA did come straight in, and it was a case of look, where's the policies? What are you doing? And I honestly remember attending. I remember thinking it's too fucking late. Excuse my friend, but they had like a crisis meeting, like literally this weekend. All the boards are going to be out, all the banners are going to be out. Everyone that's a coach is going to wear these t-shirts, and I'm thinking, well. Now it's happened.
How old are the kids though, Daz?
They were 15 years old, Marco, and in this group, and I haven't seen the messages. I know what the messages were and what emojis were used. There was no words, just pictures. And the poor kids obviously distraught. And obviously, did you know how bad it was? The football club, like I said, acted too late, in my opinion. But again, you can't control. I mean, these idiots, again, these kids. But the whole team was banned and kicked out of the league. Suspended, not allowed to sign for any other clubs. I think it's a year. Is it a long? I don't know whether you can't stop kids playing football, but at the same time, I think they should have been made to attend some kind of, some kind of course education. But my point only being again is the club got a managers meeting together after, and then it became banners, t-shirts, awareness. And I was thinking,
it's all too reactive. That's the problem. Everything is reactive. There is no education. The education comes after the fact all the time. It's like, oh, they've done this. Oh, now maybe we should speak to them. Well, we'll speak to them anyway. This isn't an issue that's just come out from under a rock.
No. This could be such a broader conversation, and it's not. I'm not smiling because it's kind of funny. It's not funny, but a couple of weeks ago, I would say 2 or 3 months ago, it must be at least now. Actually, I'm driving back from a game. My lad's in the back of the car. Right, he's 9 at the minute, and there's a song on the radio, and it's a particular song, and it's got a particular word in this song. And he's absolutely going to town rapping this song out, and he drops in an N-word. And I'm having to sit there and say to him, you can't say that, mate. You can't say that. And he completely unwise, Alan, and he didn't know. And to be honest, to this day, he's remembered that conversation. But again, probably a little bit. But I think that's something I would bring to the table, is saying, is that right that word is used amongst people? Is that right? Can I ask that, just to throw a bit of controversy in here? Because if that's in these songs and everything, mate, then my child's hearing that. Yes, you can say you can shelter him and you can stop him from listening to them lyrics, but he did not know what that word meant. That doesn't help the situation. Do you know what I mean?
I can't answer for Alan, but I think if you want people to stop using the word, you've got to stop using them yourself.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Do you not think, again, maybe these rappers should be thinking that's a word that is being used against us from white people, and it's a vile word. Does that mean that they, maybe a black person call another black person that? That's my only little bit there, because I've had to educate my son. That's one thing I've had to educate him on, that word is an absolute fucking no-go. You do not use that word, even if you hear that in a song. And I've had to try and explain the best I can why that is a bad word. So that's something that I would like to see, because I've done my part now. In that instance, I think I've educated him. I think I've done the right thing, but I think that not standing on the white side of the fence now in any way, but I just think that them words need to be completely fucking kibosh, done, never used.
And I don't disagree. I take my daughter to gigs all over the country. So I don't know who the rapper was, but at the moment, UK rap has done so much for society. I can give you an example. I went to see Gigs, a rapper called Gigs, grime artist, massive in Nottingham. There was more white people in there than any other race. Bouncing, mosh pit. It was great to see. But never at one point did I think these white people shouldn't be listening to black music. It was great to see. Then you got inclusion. I felt safe. Felt absolutely safe. As a black man, being at a gig, felt absolutely safe. Does the word need to be used in music? No, because I don't understand the reason why, unless it's a specific context. If you're coming out with something that the lyrics are relating to a story.
I don't know, we're digressing off football, mate. I just wanted to know what your point of view was.
But also, I just wanted to say, if I'm with myself, bearing in mind, most of my best friends are white. Just saying. Not proud of that. Just to say, oh, friends, white. But when I'm with my black friends and there isn't a white person in sight, or even if they are, we don't call each other the N-word, Just for anybody watching this that wants a bit of education.
No, and I don't know if that is a term, but I
sit around the table. And I'm just saying, we don't, as a generalization, we don't call it each other and constantly use it. I'm just sort of letting people know that. Does it need to be in the context of a rap song? No, there's better lyrics out there. And I don't think it has any substance in a rap song. We're not 1980s, but on another side of it, there's not many privileges you get by being black. And if you speak to some black people about it, they will say the only privilege we have is we can call each other that word.
Fair enough.
Because it goes back to our roots, and we're no longer slaves. And we no longer, I always remember being in Nottingham, in Clifton as a kid, and one of my black friends said, "I'll never work for the white man." because it's a white man's world. Where did he get that from, by the way? We're about 12.
Home.
Where's he get that from? Did he make that up?
It's got to be
12
home.
years old, yeah.
He's got
home,
it from home, hasn't he?
Yeah, pre-program, yeah.
And that's the whole thing about education. Education isn't getting a guest speaker in to an assembly. It starts at home, and if it doesn't start at home, you need to be taking it home that much that it's part of the syllabus, it's part of culture, it's part of society. If this sort of Black Lives Matter protest is in London, is that not the topic to speak about at least for an hour next week at school?
Yeah. Yeah.
No, it's a fair point. I mean, do you honestly think though that, as in, so if I go back to like my nan's era, and I've been to valuations in my job where I've sat on older people's sofas, and I have heard stuff, but I'm going to tell you a story, and it's not as in a black racist story, but still, I've had a vendor of age 75 say to me, "Can you put in the brochure that I will not sell this to Eastern Europeans, because I wouldn't do that to my neighbours." And do you not think that age group, like I said, that racism of whatever is already? Do you think you can't change him?
No.
Do you know what I mean? That you cannot change him. I've stood there, and my nan's come out with terminology. Bless her, she died in 2009, but she's come out with terminology in the past. And I've been like, fucking hell, Nan, you can't say that. And she's like, oh, I don't mean it directly, but that's just what we said back in my day, which seems to be the perfect excuse to try and get away with it.
I think it's very difficult to change somebody of age, someone who's a little bit older, but what you do is you dilute it with the ages. So
yeah, but do you think that's happening?
I'll give you an example. I remember being 16 and I went to a girl's house, girl I was dating, white girl.
Is this story all right for this podcast?
It's plus 9.
Can we have the full version?
My wife's in earshot, so yeah.
Sorry, Carly.
Yeah, so I went to the house, and before I got there, I've been dating this girl 2-3 months, and before I got there, literally walking in the door, she went, "Oh, can I just tell you something?" She went, "Just ignore my dad."
Wow.
And I went,
wow.
I went, "What do you mean?" She went, "Oh, he's a bit racist." I was a 16-year-old walking into some man's house to date his daughter, who he can't stand me. But for why? Why can't he stand me? I don't get it. Why? I had having this conversation with Adi the other day. It's like, you, Daryl, could not like me and Alan. Not because we've done anything wrong to you, your family, your career. You may not even know us, but just because you look at me and you look at us and you think, don't like brown people. What a stupid thing that is.
And that's where my naivety comes in, because I don't look at anybody like yourself. I've done interviews for my job, and I think we've touched on this again, Alan. And I've had black, white, all sorts, everything come through the door, and I've looked at the person. Is that person good enough for this job? Do I like that person, as in, can they come and work for me? Can I work with them? I've never, and that's where my naivety is. And I think, that I've been educating myself that like it's like to listen to your stories of, yeah, but we've put up with this from 11 years old, Marco. As in, what did you say they called you at that football club, beginning with the letter P?
Luba.
I mean, that's the story. We've been friends from probably you being, I would say, I've known you from the age of about 14.
Yeah.
And I mean, that's the first time I've ever heard that story. But
yeah,
I think, like I said, I think there is, and that is genuine naivety, Alan. It's not the fact of I've turned a blind eye, because I tell you now, I've played on football pitches, and I've heard it. I have heard it, and I've been the first one to fucking go flying in. That's only because I'm a bit hot-headed. But you know what I mean? I'm like, it's shouldn't ever be that.
Because if a black player reacted, it should be the bigger man and walk away, right?
I get that point, and this is why the conversation's good, because for years I just thinking, I can see, it's just cooled down. He's not reacted to it, when actually probably should have done.
Yeah, and I was just to say, going back to the age thing. So obviously, this guy that's I class him as old, that racially abused me. I can't say that it's just a generational thing; it's an age thing, because my nan and granddad sort of brought me up alongside my mum and stepdad, and they was white. Granddad white, Scottish from Fife. I used to come on holiday to Mablethorpe and Skegness with me and my sister, me and my big afro, and with a white lady and a white Scottish man. When I look back now, how brave.
Yeah, fucking, that's absolutely a massive fair point.
So when we're talking about generational age, God bless his soul, I won't mention him, but I'm sure his grandson or son-in-law will probably watch this as we share this podcast. One of the richest men in the whole of Boston, who probably owns, I'm guessing, majority of the land that you see in Boston, employed me as a property consultant.
Mm-hmm.
And when we used to meet with him, we'd only meet at around 12:30. Why? Because he used to have a lady come in to cook his meals. And we could only meet in his house where we was eating together. Now, that guy passed away, I think, last year or the year before, and I think he must have been into his 80s. A farmer from Lincolnshire that probably never travelled out of Lincolnshire that much, because his work was solely in farming. So when people say this to me, I'm a bit like, no, that's wrong. And we all know, Daz, of the people that we sold houses for or to. I've sold houses to lovely, lovely, lovely white elderly couples.
Mm-hmm.
They've never had a problem with me, never made me feel
never
uncomfortable.
Judged. Yeah.
No, but they and to the point where I speak to one couple that they live down south in Southampton. I speak to them probably once every 6 months just to check in. Beautiful people. So I just think it's whether you want to be racist. You know if you're racist or not. You know. It's not, oh, well, my dad told me when I was brought up in the 30s that this is how it was, and
this
we
is
just
acceptable.
continued. You know if you're going to call someone the N-word or call them a wog like the guy did to me. You know whether that's right or wrong. Now, some of these kids today don't know whether things are right or wrong, because we're living in a modern world and it takes parents to stand up and educate our own kids. And schools are not going to take it on board. The FA are not introducing this into football clubs as mandatory, but you'll have to get a safeguarder for that football club. All coaches and volunteers have to do a CRB, but they don't have to do a specific course just around sexism,
diversity,
and inclusion,
equality, everything,
You know, so
but they all have the policies. They all have to put the policies on the website. How many people?
Policy. We signed an IT policy at work, haven't we? And still emailed probably stuff that you shouldn't email. It's all a little yes, I've received it.
Tick box.
Yeah, tick box exercise. Exactly that. That's what I said. It's on every website. It's on every website. It's on my contract of employment, but nothing's ever drawn, I suppose, to a big attention to it.
Speaking of policy, and I'll ask this because a good 60% of the people that are on our page, our podcast, are from the United States, so probably a little bit more relevant. And still football, but their type of football. The Rooney Rule. What do you make of that? Do you know about that? The Rooney Rule.
No,
I do. Yes, I do.
Yes. So basically, now they have to interview a certain percentage of black people for every job that is available out there.
Yeah.
What do we make? Because you hear. I don't know if Alan, have you heard Sol Campbell talking on the issue of black football managers in the UK, and they are massively underrepresented.
I get this, but the only thing that I would want to to raise makes me then sound like then I'm coming from a white angle. So I'm a bit wanting to tiptoe around that. There was an article that I was reading coming away from American football slightly back into English rugby. Now, what they were saying is there is nobody of kind of any minority in any form in the pyramid, the structure of the English rugby. You know, their equivalent of whatever the FA. I don't care because I don't like rugby. But so it's not that I don't care. Sorry, I don't know enough about it because I don't know how to structure it. But 82% of the English rugby squad were of, you know, were black, coloured, whatever word you want to use. Whatever, yeah, that's
as high as 80%.
That's what they said in the last tournament. Yeah, it was crazy in the squad that was selected. It was such a high percentage. Why were those black players selected? Why were they selected for England, for the country? They weren't. It wasn't about race there. Why were they selected for the country?
The best at
because
what they
were
do.
the best at what they do. And my only view about when they were looking about restructuring behind the scenes is it shouldn't be just a white person that gets it. And it shouldn't just be a black person, because that's when you're making it about the colour of the skin, saying you have only got this job because you are black or white. It's just got to be the best person for the job. That's what I think. But I think there has to be, like I said, there's got to be some diversity in there somewhere. It can't be all black and it can't be all white. But at the same time, I don't think the top of, you can't just say you're going to get this job, because I think that creates problems in itself.
But I think I get what you're saying there. But I think the argument for black people on this issue is that they're not even getting in the room for an interview.
Yeah, there was a massive article on this as well about 4 or 5 years ago, and they were on about Asian footballers, and they were saying about that no Asians get to represent England. Did you ever see that? I mean, as another coach, Alan, I don't know if you ever saw it. They were saying about Asian footballers, you know, from the likes of I don't know, with certain parts of the UK. They were saying
he's looking Pakistani, Indian, Asians.
Yeah, they were looking at that, and the reality was the FA just came out or the England manager's not picking them because they're simply just not good enough. Was that the case? I don't know, but I mean, if I look at a lot of the Premier League squads now, and I think that, like I said, they're quite diverse. Some squads are.
Is that a cultural thing though, Daryl? And I don't know the answer to this, but I had two years where I was involved in kids coaching. I think they were 11 and 13 the 2 years I had, and there was a couple of Asian kids that would come to training, but they weren't allowed to play at the weekend because they had to go to mosque or they had to do something with the family. They just weren't allowed to. They just weren't allowed to play. So is that a cultural thing as to why they're not, rather than an inclusive thing?
I'm not sure, but that was the article is that they were obviously the Asian community in particular was saying, why is it? Why are Asian footballers not being selected? To play for. I mean, especially when you look through.
Can you name one?
That's what I'm thinking. That's what I'm thinking now. I can't think of anybody off the top of my head, Alan. Who you think? I mean, I wouldn't want to even suggest a name that might not agree. But I again, there's got to be some hidden talent out there. But is it the fact? Is that argument there? And is it right saying 33% of the squad needs to be white, 33% needs to be black, 30? No, that's my only argument. My argument is the best player should be picked, the best manager for the job, the best man for the role.
Well, the best players do get picked. That is a fact, right? The best players do get picked. And you look at, was it a week ago we were celebrating the diversity of the England team. 8 of the 11 had parents or grandparents that weren't born in the UK. Brilliant, amazing. They go and lose, and then that's a bad thing.
Yeah, I get that. Yeah, I see that.
I had friends messaging me going, a Jamaican won the game today. When Raheem Sterling, was it 1-0? Was it Croatia or Czech Republic? I can't remember. But going back to what you were saying, Mark, about the Rooney Rule, is black people, even in American football, never getting the opportunity. Yeah. But they're a superstar on the pitch. And they never get the opportunity, even as a coaching capacity. It wasn't necessarily the manager.
Yeah.
Are you telling me that I can only discuss football is in soccer, and all I can say is we've had some iconic footballers in the Premier League play for probably every club's got a black superstar, past or present.
Yeah.
And they'll never get into the boardroom even. They're not even as a coach. And I can only imagine from watching all the movies that we watch, in America, I think it was a case of a white man doesn't want to potentially be told from a black man in the boardroom which players we're signing. Yeah, exactly. What we're doing, how we're going to roll, making key decisions, and it's coming from a Negro. That's how it is. You've brought me on here to be
honest. No. There's no holds bar. Say what you feel.
Now, right, Daz. Here's a good one for you, my friend. You've been giving me some questions. Can I ask you one?
I don't know. Go on.
Just to flip it.
Yeah, go for
it. This is just I'm playing with you, but name me your Forest hero.
But that has nothing to that. My Forest hero is the man that's up until my right hand side with the signed England.
It can't be Brian Clough. It was an ex-player.
It's Stuart Pearce.
Yeah,
Stuart Pearce is my hero.
I know it is, because you ask any Forest fan, proper Forest fan, there's only one that you remember. Psycho.
No, but if you ask me for the next one, mine would be Stan Collymore. Funny enough, that is genuine.
Okay, so if it's not yours, who would you say the majority of people, if you was in Nottingham and you had 1,000 Forest fans, they probably all would you agree? They would all say Stuart Pearce, give him the job.
Yeah, but I think that again, my dad's generation would have said, I don't know, Robbo or somebody like that. You know, they'd pick it up.
Yeah.
But I get the point.
So in our era, who do you think a guess would be who people would then say as number 2 legend in the late 80s, early 90s? Who would be the next superstar for Forest that you would say give him the job because of his playing experience and how good he was as a player, like we did with Stuart Pearce? I say we, as a Nottingham lad, I don't support Forest, but that's for another matter when you can banter me on another podcast. Who do you think would be second in line as a footballer ability for Nottingham Forest that's going to get the job?
Well, I suppose I'm being influenced a little bit by the people they have picked in the past, like the old.
No, but this person's never got picked. Come on. In my opinion, there's only one other player that is on Stuart Pearce's level.
Are you talking about you going on the lines of Roy Keane or somebody?
Yeah. Those sort of, exactly that level.
So I would say that there's only one other man, mate, for the club, and you'll never ever beat him. And that's Super Des Walker.
Right. Exactly. So for the people that are watching this, I'm sorry that we just spent 2 minutes on this part. It's a key point. Stuart Pearce, absolute Nottingham Forest legend. From the whole history of the football club. Didn't do so well as manager, but he's always welcome back.
Yeah.
No matter how bad he did, he will always be a legend. Second behind him, you'll never beat Des Walker. Played for England, did fantastic in 1990, if I remember right.
Came off his arse, lobbed
the best defenders ever, probably to have played the game. Once again, only my opinion, but I'm sure lots of people back me up. How come Des Walker's never been a coach?
He has been a coach at Forest. He has been a coach at Forest.
Sorry, he has a coach. I'm talking manager. I'm talking
of any kind of really big serious standing.
Stuart Pearce got the job. Now, if Des Walker goes into an interview to another football club, on his resume, he gets experience of playing international with some of the best England footballers that we ever had. Gary Lineker, Gascoigne. I'm trying to think in that era who else was
Butcher and everybody.
Chilton, all them.
Waddle.
How does he not get a chance? But not even an interview.
But does that necessarily mean? Does it mean that? I mean, you could look at Arsene Wenger was a fucking terrible footballer, but was a great manager. Does it mean that because you've been a really good? I get that he should be involved in some standing within that football club because he is a fucking legend. Des Walker is an absolute legend, but does it mean that because he's been a great footballer and he's been there and done it and got the T-shirt, does it mean it's certain players go into punditry? Do you see what I mean? Some of them, they're just not cut out for management.
Daz, let's look at it from 3 players that played at the same level at the same era.
Okay. I feel like this is like question me. It's like an evening with Daz, this now.
Frank Lampard.
Yeah.
No experience in as a manager, got the Derby job.
Yep.
Steven Gerrard.
Yeah.
No experience as a manager, gets the Rangers job. Not even as an under-21s manager.
Yeah.
No experience. Rangers job.
Wayne Rooney.
No. Sol Campbell. Campbell. Colchester.
Yeah, but okay, so there's a lot of other issues that Sol Campbell supposedly had off the field, isn't he? He's supposed to have had a bit of a breakdown, which I'm not going to draw attention to. But is he rebuilding? Because I think he is a good manager. I don't know why he's probably not been at the. Did he do anything at Colchester? Did he do anything that's happened? Yeah, but again,
I'm just saying, what we want is to get the opportunity to sit in front of owners and voice our opinions on how the game's perceived, how they think they can bring their value, how they can also, like Les Ferdinand's massive at QPR now, isn't he?
Yeah.
But if you look at QPR's fan base, their fan base is so diverse now. Not only for the community work that they do, but they're embracing, so that they've just got different nationalities and colours within their football club. And unfortunately, we won't see that in the top clubs, unfortunately.
But you might do, because I generally remember that there is the lyrics of the Tupac song. They said they never see a black president. That was the words.
Yeah, it gave us hope.
And we did. And I tell you what, he was probably the fucking best. And that had nothing to do with the fact that he was black, white, green, orange, or anything. He was just generally probably one of the most, normal human, in touch with everything. Wasn't, I mean, to think of the two contrasts from him leaving office to that, who is a fucking pleb going in.
Go back to football. There's nothing worse as a black man going to watch a game of football on standby, thinking something's going to be said to the black player that all of a sudden is Bukayo Saka skinning people alive, whipping balls in, scoring goals. Then all of a sudden he has a bad touch, he has an off day.
Yeah.
And I get it. And there's also, going back to the football thing, you've got can you remember the Ron Atkinson comments? Yeah. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
That one.
To Alan's point is that the point about going and watching that is you're not only going and watching that and thinking, I'm going to hear that. You go in and thinking, I'm going to have to say something about that. I'm going to have to.
Or you might have to. Yeah. You go in pre-planned thinking, like you said, it's just an inevitable thing. Like it is, like I said, I don't want to sit here as the white man. I don't, because you're like literally, generally, two of my best friends. Genuinely, I mean, Alan will tell you, he comes into my office and I'm like, I want him to come and work for me, with me. Do I not? Do you know what I mean? So like I said, this is where the naivety is, because I've not seen that world. And just listening to your stories, and then you've all got the points. Like I said, I'm not here to argue what experiences you've had, because to be honest, like I said, Marco Moore, we've been fucking everywhere together. God, we've been like the best of friends for 20 years, whatever. Do you know what I mean? And it's I'm not aware of, I'm not, not that I'm saying I'm not seeing it, but all I would know is if I was with Marco or with you and somebody said something in a racial context to you guys, you wouldn't have to do, I would be before you two as my friends. Do you know what I mean? I would never stand for that. No one would ever do that.
But I've been in that situation hundreds of times with my white friends, and there's nothing worse when you're in that position and your friends are in that position with you.
What are you saying, as in you feel alone, or you don't like them being put in that position?
I don't want them to be put in that position.
It shouldn't be a case of choosing sides. It's just fucking right, wrong.
I'm there. If I was with you, if I'm with you, and I get that racial abuse, the first thing I'm not thinking about is me. I'm just thinking, he's with me. Daz is now going to see this is.
Yeah, that's really sad though. That's really sad because that's a story that I'm again, or a paradigm I'm just not. I don't know. I would never think if I was with you. My first reaction would be not to just defend you, but just the fact in the fact that it's just right's right and wrong's wrong, mate. I would just go off. I wouldn't want you to think that. Do you know what I mean? And I know we're going off topic of football, but
it's like when I'm a football coach and you just think you're having banter. Happens. You're on the sideline. I don't know. You have a bit of banter with the manager or the management either side, and you're just thinking, what are you going to do actually if they give you some racial abuse? You're in the moment, let's say. Let's give it to that excuse. You're in the moment. Everything's getting heated. Is it really getting that heated to where you've got to be racially abused? I hope not. No. Because it happens every week. Would you say most games that normally there's words said between management at some point? And you're just hoping that it's not. But I don't know if I'd have took my players off the pitch. Because I know.
Where are you talking?
If one of my players was racially abused or I genuinely would be stuck at that time.
Because what's the right course of action to take?
Initially, I'd say, walk off. But then you've got to justify walking off. You've got people saying, "Well, they've won."
It's only banter.
Yeah, at the moment. Sorry, I didn't mean it like that. You're representing a club. You then have to replay that game probably, or if you're losing and you get given the points, that's why I brought them off, because they was losing. Now they're going to get the points and we're going to get a fine.
Or they're losing and get to replay the fixture now. Yeah, I get your point.
Or you don't get to play the fixture. We get the 3 points and they get deducted 6 or something like that because they've been found guilty. But the FA, the local FAs are not equipped. Let me repeat, they are not equipped to know how to deal with these scenarios. And
what systems and processes or finances in place to have the right mechanisms there to deal with it? What is it that you?
Well, there's no one. When I speak to the Lincolnshire FA, no one knew what to do.
So here's a question for you: would you say like appointing an Allan Ross for Lincolnshire FA? For black footballers to come to say, listen, this is fucking happening, and is that what you think? Is that what it needs?
It does, and your question now looks staged, and the reason why, pal, is when this had happened.
My question.
Yeah.
Which question? Sorry, which question was staged?
Does it need an Allan Ross to be working with my local FA to assist them, and like a Troy Townsend, to be able to speak to that person
at Grassroots? Yeah. Sorry, I thought you were questioning my question. I see what you're saying. It looks like I'm plugging you.
It looks staged because I felt as though maybe I handled everything wrong by reporting racism to the police. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
That's how I felt. Now all of a sudden, and when I was interrogated, I was just thinking, this is completely the wrong thing to have done, Al. I then emailed Pinchbeck United and the FA saying, we'll talk about education. This is a prime example where clubs need to understand the hurt that racism brings, not to me, my family, or my kids, what my wife must have felt, all my friends and my family that are close to me, and further afield friends, and the bigger impact that it has. So I've emailed, and didn't barely get a response from my local FA at all.
Yeah, that's disgusting.
I
think there's a space.
By the way.
Yeah, I know. You don't want the money or anything to do with that. Yeah,
I could come in, and I've done lots of public speaking throughout my job. I go speak to the clubs. I put on a workshop of just even being a guest, just saying, this is the hurt that racism brings. Could we at least think about what we're going to be teaching our kids as football coaches and as a FA? how this impacts you so much. But if we want to report these things, then what happens? We don't want to treat a criminal for reporting.
So you would see that role going in and implementing, like I said, like a system and a process of reporting, how it's dealt with, how it's investigated, making sure that it was fair and a true reflection about what's happened, and like I said, getting that as presenting that, and then saying to the FA, right, this has happened.
Yes, and that family having someone
support mechanism. Yeah.
No,
that's that. I think that's a valid idea.
I offered that,
and it fell on deaf ears.
Yeah, and you just think,
because do you think it's them? It's because is it an old boys club? And I don't know anybody at Links FA or anything else. Is it an old boys club that are just thinking, football's been football for fucking 200, 300, 400 years, and just head that like ostrich. Put your head in the fucking sand and let's just wait till this blows over.
Daryl, it comes to the point though, doesn't it, that we talked about 20 minutes ago, where we're saying that culturally, people of an older generation found it a little bit more acceptable to say these kind of things. I'm not saying
football in general.
But what I'm saying is, these people are in the boardrooms of Links FA.
Yeah. No, I completely understand.
When the likes of Allan or whoever are bringing these things to their attention,
their table.
So what they're doing is they're going, let's tick this box. We've done the diversity training. We've got the policies in place.
Yeah, this is how we deal with it, and then out the
move
door.
on. Yeah.
It's wrong. It's wrong on every level.
I've even got it upstairs in my office. I played, I think it was 14 competitive games for Links FA. So back then, if you think 14 games when you only played normally around 4 to 5 league games at best in a season.
Yeah.
And I got to the semi-finals of the National Cup with them. And I was adored by the old boys brigade, as you said, Daz. I was well respected. My parents came to watch me all over the country, and they was well looked after when they watched me play, because they knew they was travelling from Nottingham to come to watch me. And I just thought, even as an ex-player representing Links FA, but you know, one of the things that one of them said to me, that one of the delegates said, "You want to be proud of yourself today, son?" I went, "Oh, thank you." He went, "No, you want to be proud of yourself today." And I went, "Oh, thank you." He went, "You know why, don't you?" And I said, "Because we won and
played well."
Next round. Yeah. I thought I played well. He went, "You're the first ever black player to captain our FA." True story. Now, at the time, I'm 17. I'm proud, by the way.
Yeah.
Like Paul Ince. Was Paul Ince branded as the first England captain, I think, wasn't he?
Not sure.
I think he was. On his resume, he's one of the first black. I think Paul Ince, if I remember right, is the first black England captain. So initially, I'm coming away feeling proud of that. When I told my mum I'm the first black lad to captain Links FA.
Paul Ince, 93. 93, Paul Ince. Can I just say one thing? Did you say you got to the semi-final, Alan?
Oh, here we go. I can see the banter in your eyes.
Yeah, but I bet you two, if you got 14 caps.
I played for Links FA myself.
Yeah, but you ain't got a cap.
You've won it.
Got the caps to prove it. I've got a cap.
I've got my cap upstairs.
Have you got a cap? Marco, have you got a cap?
I haven't got my cap.
There you go then.
Green cap all the way. 10 games or more to qualify.
Yeah, it was 10 games or more, wasn't it?
Definitely played more than 10 games as well. So I'm livid about that.
You ain't played.
Oh, we don't class all the trial games at the weekend.
What we're saying is, if we ever have a proper get together, a proper podcast, Alan, wear your cap, mate. Let's walk in with the caps on.
I will, mate.
Listen, boys. I'm conscious of the time because we've been an hour and 40 minutes. All I'd ask, Alan, you're not going to know the answer to this, and I'm conscious of that. But what can we do? Like, what needs to happen? Positive steps moving forward.
In society or football?
Football. Let's stick to football.
In football, it's got to come from the grassroots. It's got to come from school football. It's got to come from our local FAs, believing in it, and not just a campaign one day to the next, every 3 months. That it's anti-racism day. It's got to be in people's faces. It's got to be publicly out there that it's unacceptable. And I think that's the first start. Coaches going on to, even if it's only e-learning, and they go on a course and they understand what the difference between so-called banter and racism is.
Yeah.
I think that there needs to be some sort of flag, like when you are, what do they call it? When you're a charter standard club.
Yeah.
If you're a charter standard club, you used to sing and dance about that. And you used to sometimes even have a charter standard badge on the side of your kit. I don't know if
it's still going around. Yeah.
Could you imagine if you had a badge saying we are anti-racist club?
Okay, that goes back to that point about the club that I'm attached to. It was too late. Do you know what I mean? It needs to be done now. They could have sent a message and set a precedent and said we're the first club to do this.
And we're going to stick. And it doesn't matter whether it's said in jest. It's absolutely you're out of this football club. You'll never play.
Zero tolerance. Yeah.
Zero tolerance, whether it's parents, whether it's on Snapchat, whether it's in a WhatsApp group, it doesn't matter. And I think when clubs start to educate our kids, we've got a chance of moving forward.
Yeah, mate. Agreed.
I agree. Well, listen, I've thoroughly enjoyed this conversation. I hopefully the people that have listened and tuned in as it's been going on have, and hopefully somebody's learned something, or at least not be educated, but
it's been addressed.
Or just I didn't think about that. Maybe now I'm going to think about it. I think is a positive to take from it.
Agreed. And hopefully you'll understand that black people once or twice or more times will feel like it's a crime just because of the colour of your skin. And all we want is people to love us like a white person would love a white person.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Well, a good way to end it, I think.
Nothing to say from my friends. Thank you for inviting me on, Marco. Really appreciate it.
No.
Good to see you, mate.
Thanks, guys. It's been a pleasure.